Hello and welcome to another episode of Eat, Smoke, Drink. Today we're doing a bit of a novelty review. This is not about would I buy it again or would I not kind of recommendation. This is more of an interest factor. So as you saw, I've got two strange looking ceramic bottles that's featured in the intro. One is a Bell's bottling and the other one is a Grant's bottling. So these are a 1970s and 1980s bottling of blended whiskies. If you're not aware, Bell's, the heart malt, the key malt in Bell's is Blair Athol. So you've seen me review Blair Athol before and mentioned Bell's. So here we go, here's a Bell's. I'm not going to review just a normal Bell's. So this is quite an old expression Bell's whiskey. And then the Grant's is actually a Balvenie Glenfiddich blend. Balvenie Glenfiddich, you see that in every duty-free shop, you see that in every liquor store, but this is the blend that is based on that. Now, I'm going to do them side by side today. I'm not going to add water. I'm just going to kind of give you an insight to the flavor profiles and the styles back then. I mean, that's 30, 40 years ago. Back then, actually, it's more than that. It's more than that. The 1980s is 40 years ago, and the other one is 50 years ago. So 40, 50 years ago, of how they blended whiskies and the flavors comparing to what it is today. So look, let's start with the Grant's, and look on the nose, it's quite a pleasant nose, a bit of sherry influence in there, a little bit, not too heavy, and it's quite a spicy nose. For low alcohol percentage blended, it's actually quite a fiery nose. A little bit of tannin. If you saw my 100-year-old whiskey review, shall I say review, OBE, which is Old Bottle Effect. Now you don't, in theory you shouldn't get that as much with ceramic, but you will still get it because obviously over time the alcohol will eventually degrade the layer inside the ceramic, and you are getting a little bit of that in the nose. And that smell is a minerally, glassy, sandy type of smell, and you definitely have that with this Grant's. And as you can see, the cork is broken. The cork on this is taped, it's also broken. So I'm getting a relatively two-dimensional smell, to be completely frank. Vanilla, coconut, a bit of syrupy, sugary smell, a bit of cinnamon, a bit of nutmeg in there, a bit of ginger spice, white pepper spice, but nothing, and of course that Old Bottle Effect smell as well, a bit minerally. Ironically enough, is sometimes that Old Bottle Effect can actually add that extra dimension of flavor that makes it exceptional. If you have a bottle about maybe 20, 25 years old in the bottle, sometimes it just gives you that nice minerality. But this one, I can tell you, it's a little bit heavy on the nose, that minerality. Now let's try this one here, the Bell's. The Bell's, I've got bits of cork in my glass, you probably saw when I was pouring it. The Bell's is definitely much more tame on the nose, slightly sweet, slightly floral, slightly waxy, but very similar in the nose, very similar in spirit, you know, quite relatively narrow and two-dimensional, nothing too, you know, out there. The Bell's doesn't have that, or doesn't have as much, as I'm struggling to get at that mineral Old Bottle Effect though, so yeah, just luck of the draw, I suppose. Now, the reason why I'm doing this today as well is that a vast majority of whiskey in the world, something like 85 and 90% is actually blended malt, blended whiskey. So that's either grain whiskey or malt whiskey blended together, because there are multiple reasons for that. One, they're cheaper to produce. So, you know, countries that are with maybe inferior currency to the euro and the US dollar can afford them, but also, yeah, I mean, making it cheaper, it's easier to drink sometimes as well, because blended whiskies tend to be a bit more tapered in flavour and easier on the palate. So most of the whiskey in the world would be blended. Single malt is actually relatively new on the scene. When I say new, I mean, you know, like, it's not like it's just brand new, but it's, you know, within, you know, 70s and 80s it's started to pick up momentum. But single barrel is similar. Most people still drink blended malt, blended whiskies like Johnny Walker, White Horse, White Mackay Ballantines and the like. Now, I mean, this channel is not about that, but I wanted to feature this because it is very interesting to see what it's like. So let's give it a try now. Now, quite flat. That could be because maybe the cork breathed a lot in the last, 40-50 years. The glassiness is definitely there. You can't mistake that glassy, that minerality of the old bottle effect. It's quite fiery, spicy, and as funny as it sounds, if someone asks me, so what kind of the flavors you're picking? Look, the smell is very similar to the taste, but it's quite narrow and uncomplex. I could imagine back in the day it would be relatively easy to drink, but you can taste the new make spirits still. So I would presume that the whiskies they use in this are relatively young, and that's why they blend them, is to take off the peaks and the sharpness of the youngness, the youth of the whiskey, so it's palatable and they can sell it as quick as possible and it's cheaper as well. So look, that taste, I wouldn't say that it's well, there's no smokiness in there really, but the minerality is there, and it is quite a fiery whiskey. Yeah, so look, it's always a privilege to try whiskies like this, because this is older than me. This is older than me, and in the bottle, that is, in the bottle. So it's always interesting. So let's try the bells, see if that fares better, because the nose of the bells is actually really tapered and really mild. Ooh, I don't know which one's firier. They're both pretty fiery. They're both pretty bitter. Yeah, I mean, there's no old bottle effect on the bells. You can definitely smell in that. Look, I think back in the day, if you were buying this is probably quite cheap, and it's something that you can just get, and it's pretty cost effective. So you can't really fault it for that. But in terms of complexity, if I was to describe both, how would I describe the flavor? Look, it tastes like whiskey. Okay, that's what it is. It's whiskey. That's what whiskey tastes like. And there's nothing special about it. There's nothing unusual. There's nothing, there's no overarching flavors that you kind of go, wow, what is that? So yeah, but look, thank you for joining me today. Just a little bit of interest factor. I thought I'd share these two with you. And see you again until next time. And until then, don't forget to eat, smoke, and drink.